Be excellent to one another.
Isn't that the end?
I can't remember. I was.
Halfway through. Hello.
Hello. Greetings, the internet. We are back with another hobby hangout, where, if you didn't get the reference, we will be talking today about Bill and Ted. Not random two people called Bill and Ted. The Bill and Ted trilogy of movies, starring Alex Winters and Keanu Reeves, who are excellent. But before we do that, we need to follow our standard procedure of Dave forgetting the format.
I think, well, you've done the intro most.
Yeah, I can usually manage that bit.
I mean, it's early February 2021.
Yes, it is. Just we are.
Just because these sometimes aren't exactly in the right order on YouTube.
True. Yes. This is February 2021.
Early February, and it already feels like it's been way more than just a month.
Sure we haven't had 2 Januaries.
Who could tell at this point?
I don't know. Extra January's not good for the year. But anyway. So yes, how are you?
I'm okay, yeah. Kind of tired. There's a thing I saw recently, somebody was posting online about pandemic fine, which is where you say you're fine, but what it means is, well, I'm employed and I'm healthy in the pandemic, but also just so tired.
Yes.
So yeah, pandemic fine. Work's pretty busy, and there's also a few other things happening that I'm kind of taking on, which I suppose is more stuff to think about, but also feels like stuff that would be useful. So
yeah.
But yeah, generally alright. How about you?
I am pandemic fine. I mean, work is still work. I mean, this morning I got pulled into random meetings very suddenly to sort something out. It's like, okay, it's just all stuff.
Yeah.
It's not.
Will you be going on site more because of the meeting you had?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, I guess you.
Nothing was resolved.
Yes. Okay. No, that's fair enough. I'm still basically at home for the foreseeable processing things, and there's quite a lot of hurried processing.
I have this feeling it'll either be I'll be on site for the entire week or not at all. One of the two.
Well, you said it might be useful for you to go at least one day.
Yes, but depends if they're not if they're doing what they were doing, we'll not be allowed to.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Oh, sure.
It'd be complicated.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yes, otherwise fine. I have another live stream tomorrow for work with for more storytelling.
Storytelling week, isn't it?
Yes, National Storytelling Week this week. So we got some great stories from read by staff from across the Birmingham libraries. Watch Mr. Mannel. So yes, that's a good sign. I've been helping put together some content across the Facebook pages. So that was standard fare at the moment, really.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes. So in this great time of chaos and change, what have you been reading?
Yes. Should we talk about what
we can talk about what we're doing. Yes. I can't remember which order we do these things in.
I'm not sure how consistent it's been.
I don't think it has been.
Because if we work on it, might as well mention it first.
Okay, yes, you say, because mine's a little less interesting.
So I am continuing with the cross stitch. I have done all of the black on this. Yes, that's rough.
Yes, I'm just thinking it's going to be around for a while as we find bits of it that's been strewn everywhere.
Sure. Yeah, we had a small person birthday recently. So this is my cross stitch that I've been working on, which I think you can see a bit more clearly what it is now. It's very majestic. I think even without the other colours, it's already quite majestic.
Yes.
And yes, again, I didn't cut the borders wide enough because this is my first big one and I haven't figured this out yet, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
But yes, so I've done all of the blacks, so now I'm doing the kind of darker blue, which at the moment I feel isn't showing up very well. But probably when I've done probably when I've done more of it, because it's kind of this bit's quite fiddly, but then it's in blocks later, and that bit's all dark blue, so I think it'll show up more. And I mean, obviously in the antlers where there's a lot of white space at the moment, I think it'll show up more. It's just because I've started in this bit. Yeah.
So when we start putting highlights on things, you don't start seeing everything until you raise it up a level.
You don't really do highlights in cross. Well, I mean, if you do, they're just like on the pattern. There's all
shades. Did you at least wash it with none oil? Because I don't understand.
No, because this is white, and I think stains quite easily. If I'm honest, it's my understanding.
I don't understand the concept. Why do you just wash it in none oil and it just magically makes it all? Actually, tell a lie. I don't use none oil that much, but
I don't know what that is. I'm gonna iron it at some point. Like, are you familiar with ironing? I know we don't actually do it. No, I know. It's not like we've had to go anywhere fancy, is it?
No.
I mean, let's face it. Fabric.
2 irons.
Do we have 2?
Or did we get rid of one when we moved?
Well, I think so, because I literally only use it for fabric stuff.
Okay, we had 2 irons at one point.
Like I bought an iron. I think we had one that was a bit rubbish and old, and I bought an iron when I had an office job years ago, because I thought I probably need to iron more, but I just bought a load of clothes that like barely needed ironing, so I did it very rarely, and then I just use it for fabric stuff.
I think the last time I used it was for fabric, for ironing my backdrop for the photo booth.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, we just use the iron for craft stuff, basically.
Yeah, so absolutely nothing to do with it.
Not for... What? I mean, you put the clothes on, they're not flat anymore, are you? Wearing them?
No. I'm sure some people do not understand the concept, but anyway, yes. So yes, it's looking very nice. And
thank you. What are you working on?
Not much at the moment, because Sazabi's is...
I was thinking, like, where's your big box of rope parts?
I do... So Sazabi's done, for the most part. I need to do his hands, which are very straightforward. I need to decide what I'm putting in them first. And then it's the bigger, more complicated job of panel lining and putting not transfers, decals.
Okay.
Yeah, the decals on, which involves water, and these are very, very tiny decals, so not something I can really do here.
Okay.
So, and also I have another one I need that is further along in the process that I actually need to complete. I need to do unicorn first, so I should really get that down and start that one.
Sure.
Finish that one before I... Anyway, the point is, Sazabi's almost is kind of off screen for now, so I've got.
Okay, I should write that down because I've just been writing his name on all of the videos we've done so far.
So I have for the moment I'm going to flick through the manual and just see where I'm going with the next Gundam, which I might not do completely on screen. It is the nuGundam.
Is that new like NU,
yes,
like the word, or like the letter?
Nu.
Oh, so it's like the Greek Latin.
Greek Latin, yes. nuGundam.
I don't think I can type that though.
Okay, just put a new then. The RX-93 nuGundam. So this is the mobile suit, new type mobile suit for Amana Ray, that basically fights Sazabi. We have on the list an entire episode about Gundam. Don't worry.
Oh yes.
Yes, we do. Yes, because so don't worry. If you've not understood a word I've talked about when mentioning about Gundam, there will be an entire hour.
It's not even required to be on in the video
of me talking about Gundam, and you not understanding it.
You showed me the anime part 1 of the anime.
You've seen parts of things.
I remember vaguely various bits.
Let's not spoil them for the episode.
No, that's fine.
Because today is not Gundam.
No.
No, I'm sorry.
Anyway, we both watched recently.
So I'm just at the moment going to flick through the manual and see what steps and look. The look of intense dismay on Cathy's face there.
I should just look at the list I've got to erase it down. Okay, then we're definitely doing the new Biscuits, because...
I never said we wouldn't!
I know, but I feel like you keep getting me to, like...
It's just I've got to read that one, and...
That's true, well, I'm reading it very well.
Exactly, so anyway,
yes.
So yeah, I'm just going to flip through the manual for a bit and talk about things. So, yes.
So I'm actually writing things down while we talk about them, because I'll remember later, and I don't, and I have to watch the whole episode again to write the YouTube description, so I'm panic. Right, so reading, what we're reading now?
What are we reading now? Do you want me to mention what you're writing, or would you like to?
I realised I forgot to write my own thing down, but I'm doing it constantly, so...
I'm enjoying a fine whiskey. Thank you very much, Mr. Manor. Very nice. I thought I'd mention it as I had the glass in my hand.
Oh, is that from...
Yeah.
Is that from...
Yeah, Man on Tack.
Oh, okay, I thought it was Leslie.
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, I suppose he wasn't there when the gift was given to you, so I was just going with the people who were physically present when the gift was given. No. Okay, yeah, but obviously, pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic has confused things greatly.
Can't see all the people.
Yes, right, where were you? Books. Do you want to start with yours?
Okay, sure. So I'm actually currently rereading the Anubis Gates because I do want to do an episode on it.
Not that much, I have to say.
I seem to recall a while ago you saying we shouldn't do a drunk cast, but alright.
I'm not drunk.
That's true.
Don't intend to be drunk. I just didn't pronounce much very well, and Manel's just going to mock me like he always does.
Sure.
I eat my
so I'm reading Anubis Gates, or rereading it, but I'm only partway through and I want to do an episode on it, but that is very good, chewy, historically, time-travel-y, fancy stuff. So, yes, but what I have finished recently is Network Effect by Martha Wells, which is the Murderbot novel. So it's the 5th instalment. Yes, I think I checked this last time because I started last time. It's the 5th instalment. The other 4 are novellas, and it's really, really good. And I think I went on about a bit last time the series, but yes, it's all about Murderbot, who is a construct that does security and shouldn't be kind of independent, but is independent secretly, and then less secretly as time goes on. Then it's kind of rogue, but yes, it's just really good and character driven, and like, the novel just kind of like they all follow on from each other. This one probably actually has the biggest gap between the last novella, and the novel, because actually Murderbot got to a place that seems, I say settled. It's in a situation where it's got a place to be, which is sort of what the first one novellas were kind of about, a growing sense of like it could be somewhere, and then like going away from that and having to resolve some stuff in its background, and then but then a character that you met in the novellas sort of turns up, and then there's a lot of peril, and you're like, oh no, but then it's fine, but then there's a lot of weirdness, and and it just kind of like expands it, and it kind of like there's quite a lot of relationship stuff in there with people, but also as it's made about, there's a lot of like there's danger and lots of things need to be shot and taken out and like killed, but some of the humans are subject to too much killing, and there's also a bit more of a contrast between Murderbot's humans and the fact that they come from a non-corporate sort of, I say planet, it might be a few planets, I'm not sure, but they come from like a non-corporate polity, that's it. So they're outside of the corporation rim. And so now these people who live in what seems like a perfectly lovely society are constantly meeting corporate people, and they're just appalled at how terrible and exploitative their whole society is. Particularly because there's a young character who is related to one of the main characters from the earlier novellas, who's kind of, it's her first time out of where she normally lives, and Murderbot's kind of protecting her, but they kind of get to have quite a good relationship as well, but also just her having to like constantly be alarmed by how horrible sort of other parts of the I guess galaxy are. Yes. It's really good, and I just think yes, people should read Murderbot.
People should read Murderbot.
They should, yes. Okay. I like the fact that before the novel came out, one of the people who told me how good it was the editor. But we do know. We do know him.
Yeah, but biased there.
But he was right, in fact. It's like I'm sure Lee is right. He's also biased, but like, yes.
Just a little bias there. Yes. I finished reading the Charles Stross book, Dead Lies Dreaming. It is the... Doesn't say which number it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
They don't put numbers on books for adult stuff.
It's the 10th novel in the Laundry File series.
They probably should.
Which starts with the Atrocity Archives. As I said, this is Cthulhu mythos meets spies meets all sorts of different influences. So this one,
is that civil service, or is that more?
The up to this one, it's mainly been focused on the Laundry, which is a civil service branch of. It used to be a special operations but it ended up being civil service. But they're the ones that look after incursions by Gribblies from dimensions beyond, magic and things like that. And this is as we move towards what is commonly referred to as Kate's Nightmare Green, which, if you know your Cthulhu mythos, is not a good thing.
Is it?
Yeah, it's our friend over there. Interestingly, there's quite a few other case nightmares which are quite interesting to read up about.
I read that short story that's set in that, and they had like the name for it was like Red something, wasn't it? And it was like the creepy horse stuff.
Yes, it's
coming.
Yeah,
up.
it's all in capitals. It's a project or sort of not. It's a.
I can't remember what the code name for it was. I know it had the word red in it.
Yeah, but it's
they kept saying we should stop doing this. It's a very bad idea.
They usually code name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was something like that.
So you need code name clearance in order to see files and those sort of things. Anyway, so it starts off with the first book, The Atrocity Archives. Is you meet Bob. I think I've mentioned this. He's a computer IT tech who accidentally summoned a demon, as you do. As quite a can do in this setting, and ends up being drafted into the laundry. Basically, if you know about this stuff, it's either you come work for us, or we have a nice padded cell which you ain't leaving. So he joins as an IT tech, but then starts going on mission, or becomes a field agent, and his life progressively gets worse from there. But they are interesting. Kind of as it gets later on, it gets more political. As Charles Stross gets annoyed with the world. This one kind of starts a new chapter in the series. It doesn't actually contain any of the existing sort of characters. It introduces a whole new cast, somewhat around and definitely inspired by Peter Pan, but in a very Laundry Files way.
Because you're feeling like a creepy.
Yeah, slightly creepy. Yeah, definitely slightly creepy. In principle, you could jump in with this one, but I think it would confuse you still. There's a lot of stuff that's unsaid, and so a lot of references that would make a lot more. Just various things will make a lot more sense if you've read the other series. But I've thoroughly enjoyed them. As I say, they're getting more complex as they go along. As the first one was quite straightforward. But
I met Charles Stross at a convention. What was just one day, small convention thing once, and he was being freaked out because there was a woman who had the exact same hair as his wife, and it was quite an unusual hair do. And it freaked him out because she just changed her hair, but this other woman had the exact same hair. So he showed us to go look, but she changed it like 2 days ago, and now there's this woman with the exact same hair. I was like, all right.
Well, we saw because we were at there's Worldcon where I just finished the latest one at the time.
Yes, I'm not saying that's the only time we've been in the same room. That's just the main time I've had a vaguely cool conversation.
Anyway, I just finished, and I almost went over there and had a go at him for ending the book where he did.
Oh, I once had that little bit with Guy Adams. It was mostly because I just finished reading this book while we were at the convention, and it was before the quiz thing.
I restrained myself.
So I went over and said, it's just ended a bit. No, I hadn't finished the book, I just finished, and he was like, just to warn you, it is just going to end, there's another one. And I was like, oh, I knew there was another one, but it was very much like the story just stops and you have to read the next bit.
I restrained myself and was a grown up and didn't go and harass an author for ending a book where they wanted to because it's their story.
I think if you say it in a complimentary, like, "Oh, I'm so annoyed, can I have more?" they're fine with it. It's like,
I mean, to be fair, I went and bought the sequel when it came out. So very fun, very Marlon, you might like him. Certainly starts off with very very geeky stuff in there, I've been mostly digging through at the moment.
I wondered why those were here. I was like, that's not a craft.
No, this is what I've been.
So it's a hobby though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is the Scion role-playing game, 2nd edition rulebook. Well, that one and the rulebooks. Scion, a role-playing game by Onyx Path these days. I just had these not custom printed, but print on demanded, because they don't sell them through shops at the moment. Scion is a role-playing game where you play scions of gods. You start off being human in origin, and as you progress in power, you could become a hero like Hercules and the classical heroes. The next book, which I'm waiting on, is Demigod.
Like Heracles.
And then and then God.
Also
like Heracles. Yeah, kind of see where this was going.
So you're basically just following the career of Heracles, but it doesn't have to be like fighting lions and like being forced to wear ladies' clothes and things.
I mean, if that's what you want.
Well, Heracles didn't want to do that. That's one of the, it's not actually one of the 12 labours, but it's not going to happen to him at another point.
Okay. Depends how your GM is feeling at that point, right? Mm-hmm. But yes, I enjoyed the first edition, but the system had some problems. So second edition ironed some of those out. So I am currently reading through.
Weren't we thinking? You remember? I mean, it was years ago now. We read that book about like the Great God Convention, and you were a bit like that would work pretty well with this setting.
Yeah.
And then we just did nothing with that. But...
No, but yeah. I think that the problem was in order to do what we wanted, we needed more people to have read the book, and it was a bit of a niche book.
I mean, okay, it was a very niche book. It was quite interesting, though. Who was it by?
I can't remember.
Okay, we need to look that up at some point. I can't even quite remember what it was called now.
No, but anyway, so it's
like bad library skills.
But yeah, if you like those kind of there's the kind of the suggested other reading. Which, is kind of American Gods, Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series, that kind of Sandman, Wicked and Divine, Journey into Mystery, the
Are you just saying things with God stuff in?
No, but those are kind of the influences.
Oh, right, okay.
Those are the influences that it's using.
This was before Wicked and Divine. Or do you mean the new one?
This one is. Yes, that's one of the stated influences for the...
Okay.
Not the original Scion.
No, that's what I'm saying, because Wicked and Divine came out later.
No, but they're also referencing the more modern material.
Right, sure. Okay, yeah.
So yes, it's quite cool, and I'm just reading this. It's, as you can see, they're pretty chunky books, and they're ones you dip in and out of a bit, especially when you get to the rules section. But I will be reading those alongside something else. I'm not actually sure what to read yet.
There's plenty of options.
There are plenty of options. It's not like I'm lacking in options. Might go pick one of the sci-fi books up.
Okay, sure.
I have plenty of those.
Yes.
We should really go on to it. So, Bill and Ted, trilogy of movies. We're mainly talking about this one because we saw the third one 3 days ago. 3 days ago? Saturday.
Some days ago.
Some days ago. Days, nebulous concept at the moment.
Yeah.
So, Bill and Ted films. Excuse me. Obviously, I'm not drunk enough at this point.
Okay. Do you want me to say some things?
Please feel free. It's a collaborative effort. This, yeah.
Sure. Yes. So the Bill and Ted film started with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which came out in 1989, and was basically about two sort of
Bill and Ted.
Yeah, two kind of metalhead teens who have a history.
Weren't really metal at that point.
Okay, that's just what Wikipedia said. I didn't know all the labels for things. Fine, you say what the music is. They're
kind
of like Slacker. They're very much like the Slacker. So it's set in San Dimas, California. Is that a real place?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, it's just because I used to think that they made it West Covina Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. That's literally a real place. When I found out, I was like, oh god, that's a real place.
So it stars Bill. Damn it! Should have referenced. I had this yesterday down.
Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and Ted Theodore Logan. Which I remember because I watched the cartoon series and they used their whole names every time they met somebody, so at least once an episode.
Yeah, because that's kind of part of it.
Yes.
Played by Keanu Reeves, slightly before he was famous.
I think it's one of the things that helped him become famous. It wasn't his debut, but he'd only done one or two things beforehand, I think.
Alex Winters, who went on to do production rather than...
He was in Lost Boys. But that's...
Was he?
Well, according to Wikipedia.
Okay,
he was Marco. I've only seen Lost Boys once. I don't remember who anyone is.
No, anyway.
Yes. So they're two kind of like slacker guys who are really into their like rock music and want to focus on their band, but their parents aren't.
Wild Stallions!
Yes. How did I forget that bit? They do that every episode of the cartoon as well. Yeah, there's a lot of air guitaring. Yeah. Their parents aren't too happy. They about the fact that they are slacking off and stuff, and so they've got this very kind of slacker Californian thing. Everything's dude. They
are not the smartest.
There was some phrase there was an episode of No Such Thing as a Fish, the sort of facty podcast done by the people who research QI, the QI elves, and they said that there was some phrase that they were the kind of originators of, but it was based on another one. I can't remember what it was now. I should have re-listened to that episode. But they're slacking off for school, and their fathers aren't happy, and Ted's dad, who's a police chief or something, is threatening to send him to military school if he fails the upcoming history project they've got. The history project seems to be everyone doing a presentation in the school hall or something. Yeah. So it's not just like writing an essay. So they're a big sin about that, and then in the car park of, I think it's a convenience store, a phone box appears, but not like a TARDIS phone box, like an American... I assume that's what American phone box... American there's not really an iconic phone box. Like, we have two here. But I think most countries perhaps don't. Or they just have, like, odd examples. And out steps Rufus, played by George Carlin, and he is from Centuries in the Future, where Bill and Ted, their sort of music is the kind of cultural underpinning of a utopian future.
Yes.
But if Ted gets sent to military school, then the band Wild Stallions won't succeed, and therefore the utopian future is in danger.
Yes. So they get given the time machine, and they go around.
They just got the phone booth, though,
don't they? They go around history, collecting famous people to do in their to present in their presentation, because why not? So this leads Bill and Ted to travel across time, collecting luminaries such as Beethoven, Napoleon,
Socrates,
Typical Socrates, Billy the Kid,
Joan of Arc,
because
she was the only woman.
Yes.
Genghis Khan,
who
I think was the only person that wasn't white.
Yeah, I mean, let's not poke it too much for that.
No, that's fine. I was just thinking it through. Yeah. I was thinking, well, Joan of Arc's the only woman, and I was like, it's all the relevant stuff we're going to talk about.
Okay. But anyway, so they go through and cause chaos, and along the way they meet two princesses,
Elizabeth and Joanna.
Yeah, who they later kidnap because.
Well, I think is it kidnapping or rescuing, because the princess seems to be happy to be married and not too happy about it. Although, again, if you're a medieval princess, you kind of know that's your job, surely.
Yes.
And then all these historical figures are running around San Dimas, California, because they kind of lose track of them.
They basically tell them to wait in the mall while they go and deal with the fact that.
Did they have Lincoln?
Oh yes, Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Where it's because they're about to, Ted's dad gets fed up with them and is about to send him off to military school. Yeah. So they have to shenanigan their way past that.
There are many shenanigans.
But yes, they end up, these historical figures ending up running around in an American mall, causing chaos.
They lose Napoleon. He goes to the water park, doesn't he?
Yeah, Napoleon goes.
Are they a big thing in California? Because the water park's also a thing they mention a lot in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which is where I get a lot of my information about California now that I think about it.
It's
some actual California.
Ted's brother is supposed to be looking after them, and that's why they end up in the water park.
Oh, okay.
And Genghis Khan goes crazy in a sporting goods store. Beethoven sits and just plays music.
So one thing I wanted to mention with the Beethoven scene, but when they go and get Beethoven, it's actually spawned a Twitter account called Bill and Ted's Test, which is done by a woman who is a textiles and fashion historian and curator. because she realised that just in this one scene where they go and they like kind of kidnap Beethoven, all of the extras are really well costumed and it's really good. And so she said, well, this is my new bar. If a minor scene from an 80s teen movie can do costumes this well, then anything else should be able to put their main characters in that good quality costuming. So so she does like various things. I think she was going to do Bridgerton, but hadn't yet. But yeah, there's various things where she'll go through and she'll talk about the quality of the costuming, because particularly Regency stuff, I think that's her area of expertise. But it's just quite good that obviously somebody in the costume department like just did really well with that for what's obviously kind of a throwaway scene. A load of extras. That's kind of cool. Although I did notice on the Twitter account that it's not just historical accuracy she judges things on. It's also quality, design, and also like consistency of world. So it's like okay, but yeah.
Cool. But yeah, so they end up gathering them all together back in. By the way, going to totally spoiler the first two movies if you haven't seen them already.
Yeah, we won't do spoilers for Face the Music because that only came out last year. And I say came out like it's on streaming.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But if you ain't watched the first two by now...
The second one was out in 1991. It was out 30 years ago, basically.
Yeah. So anyway. And they then proceed to perform at the... basically somehow
at the school hall.
Yeah, so basically combining their love of music and these historical figures to create this amazing presentation, which gets them an A, and Ted doesn't have to go to military school.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose part of me is a bit like, does that show they know history? But I suppose the point is their teachers think they just like put on and choreographed this whole show and presumably wrote all the speeches and stuff rather than just stealing historical figures.
Yeah.
See, so there's a cartoon series. I'm not sure at what point that came out, if it was between two films, but I think it only references Excellent Venture, not Bogus Journey that I can recall. For example, it's a little bit scarier. There are a lot of films where I saw the like 90s kids cartoon episodes before I ever saw the film. Beetlejuice is another one, and also Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Beetlejuice is a bit weird for that though, because they were still definitely engaged, and now I know the kind of child bride implications of that. It's a bit
Beetlejuice is a bit weird.
Yeah. When I watched it, I was like, this isn't like this cartoon at all. What's happening? Yeah, in the cartoon, they're quite often. They're going through time and meeting lots of different people, and I think they're supposed to be learning this for history class, but I think there's also an element of like, sometimes they're trying to learn things from other stuff. It's like, oh, we need to learn about gravity, let's go find Isaac Newton. I don't know if that was an episode, but that's the kind of thing that happened.
I would see that.
Definitely at least one episode where they had to go to some sort of like, probably middle Mesoamerican civilization, and then a plot point relies on them knowing when the eclipse was, and I'm like, do people know what eclipses are? I just thought of it recently because I was listening to podcasts about eclipses. So I was like, oh, that's the plot point in quite a few time travel things. Oh, there's an eclipse today. It's like, unless you're like an eclipse scientist or a solar physicist or whatever those people were on the podcast, how would you know that?
Yeah, it's a bit unusual. But
I mean, I've literally heard they mentioned one eclipse that's relevant to a very major part of Western history, and that's the only one I remember. And how long I remember that for, I do not know.
So it's just a fun movie. Yeah. In the end, it's got a great soundtrack. It's a bit quite silly, and yeah, Keanu Reeves managed to act quite well through it, because he doesn't need to act. He just is. Well,
okay, but I thought we liked Keanu Reeves.
We do.
Keanu Reeves seems to be one of the good people. Do you know how many things I listen to where people talk about older stuff, and I'm like, oh no, that actor's terrible now.
Yeah,
but Keanu Reeves is not one.
I suppose he has been a bit of a easy target.
He has at various times, but he seems to be like a solid.
I think as he's gotten older, we've realised that actually no.
And again, you haven't seen yet "Always Be My Maybe," in which he plays a weird fictionalised version of himself, and it's amazing.
Okay, fair enough.
I watched that also last week. I ended up watching two Keanu Reeves. Well, it's not Keanu Reeves only extra. It's sort of like a cameo. He's sort of like a secondary character in the other film. But anyway, I just watched a lot of Keanu Reeves last week for some reason. Accidentally.
Anyway, it's a good film. It's fun. Did not make much money. It has become a very much a cult film. So, obviously after that, they decided to do a sequel, which is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which came out 2 years later?
No, it was 1991. So... No, you're right. Yeah, 2 years.
2 years later.
I can't count.
Dave can maths. In which
30 years ago this year. There you go.
In which someone from this utopian future decides that they don't actually like the utopian future, and they send back evil robot Bill and Ted's.
This one's like even more complicated. I think I've only seen it once, so yeah. To
basically, because Bill and Ted, the future says that they have to play at the Battle of the Bands, and if they play at the Battle of the Bands, this is what launches them into, fame, and this is what will then be a step towards them uniting the world in music. So they need to play in this Battle of the Bands. So what they do is send back two evil robot Bill and Teds in order to take their places and tank their performance at the show, in which the evil Bill and Teds appear and then push Bill and Ted off a cliff.
It kind of shows you, doesn't it, that even when you've got like something fairly utopic, it's still going to be something going, no, this isn't how I want it to be. Yeah. I'm going to wreck it. So
Bill and Ted then have to, they find themselves in hell. And then
no, it's a real city.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's in the San Gabriel Valley, which I think is somewhere near West Covina.
Fair enough. I stand corrected.
I think basically anything they show you of California on TV is probably actually slightly real. I mean, I've never been there. I mean, I'm sure there's more to it than that, but like, yeah.
So anyway, so yes, in this one, yeah, they get a bit more metaphysical, as Bill and Ted have to go make a deal with Death, who was played by William Sadler, in order to get out of.
He has a lot of face makeup though. Yeah. That's when I realised it was him. He's got like a cowl and a load of face makeup.
And they end up beating Death in a number of challenges, basically because they don't play chess against Death. They play battleships and Twister and I think Guess Who and a lot of random other sort of modern games at the time, rather than chess, which Death is obviously very good at. So Death then has to help out. So it takes them to God, and God points them in the direction of someone to help them, who is Station, who is this strange alien who helps them build good Bill and Teds to fight the evil Bill and Teds, because obviously, I don't know what makes the original Bill and Teds. Are they just neutral?
Presumably.
Chaotic? I suppose neutral. Anyway. So yes,
chaotic probably, yeah.
Yeah. So during all of while Bill and Ted are dead and doing these things, evil Bill and Ted are basically being jerks, being very, very nasty to Bill and Ted's girlfriends, who are the princesses from the previous movie, and generally just being evil Bill and Ted's. So it ends up being a climactic battle at the Battle of the Bands, where the good Bill and Teds defeat the evil Bill and Teds, and it turns out that it was all a bit of a setup. So the bad guy turns up to defeat them for once and for all, and is going to projects this the whole thing around the world using his future technology to take over all the cameras and TVs. And then Bill and Ted do the we've got a time machine, so we're just going to go back in time and set up how you're going to lose. And there's an entire section where they keep going backwards and forwards about, they're basically using a time machine, basically, resulting in the bad guy losing because it has to. Bill and Ted triumphantly taking to the stage and realising that they can't play. So they've got a time machine! They disappear off and come back being able to play, along with two children as well. And end up successfully winning Battle of the Band.
Because doesn't Death join their band?
Yes, Death joins the band. So does Station, at least for that one, and the girlfriends are in the band as well.
Yeah, no, I remember that. Because they'd actually practice more.
They could actually play, yeah. And so yeah, they win Battle of the Bands. Then because of it being beamed across the world. Everyone gets to see how awesome wild stallions are, and this catapults them to fame and fortune, or at least fame. I have this feeling fortune might have fitted away. So that's the end. You get this montage of how brilliant they do, including wild stallions play on Mars, which we don't believe actually happened based on the third film, but certainly the Grand Canyon gig does. And so it's a
the timeline got all a bit confused in the third film, so I think you can get away with.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it's another cult film. It's definitely not your commercial fare. Again, excellent soundtrack.
I mean, you say it's not your commercial fare. It had so many spin-off things.
True.
Like I mentioned the cartoon. There's a Marvel comic. I think there's a game.
Yeah, to be fair, there's a lot of things had a Marvel comic.
I wouldn't
at that
say
point.
It's not commercial.
Okay. But it's just it's a good.
As I say, it's kind of like it's taking the kind of slacker style stuff that I think you had from stuff a bit like Wayne's World. And things like that. So it's of that kind of generation
stuff.
It's
a similar sort of time to Wayne's World.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going on the sort of like stuff that I remember people talking about, but don't remember myself.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate for quite a lot of stuff. But yeah, I thought it continues that. It's like a thing that liking like guitar music, so stuff that wanting to rock. I mean, obviously that one's less of a kind of romp through history and more, as you say, metaphysical. I seem to remember seeing a clip of it when I was younger and being a bit freaked out by it. I think it's when like you've got death hanging around and people like possessing different police officers.
Because at one point, in order
they kind of like go into
they have to possess people in the that it all gets very.
I mean, that one I think is a lot weirder, and there's a lot more like because the first one's kind of like these two slackers. We're really into our music. Our music's going to be really important in the future. So guys come back in time to help us pass our history thing. We have a time machine. Let's go through history and grab people. And then this one was more like there wasn't as much time stuff. It was kind of more. It wasn't like let's go through history. It's more like let's use the time machine to kind of try and like a time battle type thing, I guess. Yeah. So I mean, I do quite like time travel as a thing.
Yeah.
In general, but yeah, that I guess the second one doesn't feel quite as much.
No, I mean, they do
a bit of loopy stuff. Like I mean, in the first one, there's a bit where they're trying to sort stuff out, and they're like, oh, if only we had this. Like, you know what? When we get out of this, we'll go back in time, make sure we have it, and the stuff keeps appearing, which is kind of a convenient. There's that smack to it. It kind of goes along with the feel of the film. Like, it's silly, but
they need the keys to Ted's. To Ted's dad's office.
There's always buckets. There's always buckets or something, isn't there?
So they need to
buckets.
So they end up getting the keys and then hiding them behind a plant pot, so they're there when they want them. Or, well, I mean, that's foreshadowed actually quite well earlier on in the film, where Ted's dad can't find his keys.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's actually kind of clever. I mean, I suppose there's one clever bit, and then the film kind of keeps going with it and takes it further. Go, if only we had some buckets. I'm sure there's something with buckets. And then the buckets just suddenly appear in front of them. And it's like, oh, look, we did have them or something.
They need to distract. Somebody. So it's like we need a distraction. Well, if we what we do is we go back and set a tape recorder over in this direction, and suddenly you hear, Dad, come over here. I need you a second. And so it distracts the people that's needed, and it turns out it's the tape player playing that they set up there beforehand. It's a bit of fun with time travel, which but you're right. The second one it doesn't have that. I think they tried to recreate it at the end with the time machine battle. Yeah. Do
we want to talk about the third one a bit without being spoilery?
Yes, I was going to work my way through that.
Okay.
Yes. So the third one came out last year. So there's a bit of a gap.
29 years.
So,
well, I feel like in the film they kept using the number 25, but
that was because they started writing it a while ago.
Okay, how difficult is it to make an accent a different number? But all right. Also, I suppose in some respects, part of the premise of the film is that the time itself is breaking down.
Yeah.
Part of it I was watching, I was like, well, I've seen this episode of Doctor Who, but
So 25 years later. Bill and Ted haven't written the song that unites humanity. They are in fact, everything went downhill after a while, and they are in fact desperately trying to write the song that you made. But
they are trying a lot of different kinds of music. There's the theremin, there's throat singing.
Yeah, but
Ted's family is somewhat incestuous.
Yes, Bill's family is entirely but but the pressure of this world defining, that they're supposed to create this song that defines the world, kind of gets to them, and they're not, they're still pressing forward because they know they have to, but that absorbs everything. They're no longer obviously they're not working, they're only kind of doing small gigs, so I presume they...
What job do their wives have?
It didn't say.
No, because at one point, Ted's down to a bit like, how do you guys feel that you're the only ones in your family that have jobs or behave like adults? And it's like, well, what do these women do? Must be pretty fancy. They both have quite nice houses. Or is it like a joint house?
No, it's two houses joined by one combined garage.
That was it. You have to do recording in a garage.
So basically...
It's still 1991.
Bill and Ted... they're obviously inseparable in the first two movies. They're really good friends. They do everything together.
They're high school buddies.
The trouble is they're still inseparable now. It's obvious that they've grown up.
It's grown adults with families.
Yeah, grown adults with families with houses that are next door to each other, and, as I say, a combined garage which they do their music in. They've obviously grown up. Their kids have grown up in a household.
And sort of, I think, like siblings.
Yes.
But not, they're not actually... Well, wait a second, because aren't the mums related? Because they're both princesses, but I don't know if
I
they're
can't remember
sisters or cousins.
specifically.
In fairness, there's not a lot to the characterisation of Elizabeth and Joanna, because they keep being played with different actors, and they just find them as princesses, so they could be like sisters or cousins.
Never, yeah. But, the kids are obviously, like siblings. Bill and Ted,
friends more. Yeah,
but very close. And Bill and Ted, obviously nothing's really separated them. Even and
it's kind of like how sometimes there's, I don't know how much this actually happens, but it's sort of the idea that people are identical twins will spend their whole lives living in close proximity to each other and doing the same things. And I believe you have a family example of that. And I, in my job, sometimes see stuff where I'm a bit like, oh, look at these two people doing a lot of the same things on this form. So it's kind of like that, but they're not relatives.
No. And obviously, their wives have, put up with this for 25 years.
Well, some of the initial thing of that must be just getting used to the 20th and then 21st century.
True, yes. And obviously a large chunk of it also would have been fame, touring, and things like that. But obviously they've had to stop, they've got jobs. We never find out what they do. So it's an interesting dynamic that it's not that they failed. It's just that they know that the pressure of what they've been told that this is what they have to do, and yet
they haven't been able to do it. So most of the film I spent going, oh, it's her from like another thing. What I will say about the film, considering obviously the first two are about these two guys, and various guys helping them, and there were some princesses who they were in love with, but yeah. The third film has just so many women in it, because Bill and Ted both have daughters who are kind of Little Bill and Little Ted, because it's Wilhelmina and Theodora, but they just go by Little Bill and Little Ted. I think they just call it B and T, don't they, in the film? Which is fun. I quite like that the girl who's playing Little Ted is kind of really had Keanu Reeves mannerisms from the 90s. Like, it's like, well, that girl's really... I mean, I think the other girl probably did a bit as well, but it's just really noticeable. But yes, there's stuff in the future. So Rufus is played by George Carlin. Obviously, that actor died some time ago. So they have his wife, I guess, and their daughter having a disagreement in the future about what's happening. There's some sort of prophecy about what happens to Bill and Ted. They know that something happens at a certain place, a certain time that unites not just the future, but all mankind across time. So
and all reality.
Yeah. So then there's an element of like Bill and Ted visiting versions of themselves to find out what's happening, but they're not too pleased with what they're seeing. and also there's supposed to be marriage counselling, but when they booked to go to couples therapy, it's like the therapist's like, this is couple therapy. He's like, yeah, we're a couple of couples. And then also at no point do either of them use a singular pronoun. It's always we. It's like, we love you. It's like, so it's like, it's very close to seeming a little bit poly, but probably isn't. Yeah, like if it is, no one explained it, but it's been 25 years.
It's an odd. I think it's an odd relationship, but obviously it works for them. And obviously, yes, I appreciate the wives obviously getting stressed and having issues, and I would hope.
Well, I feel like there's a little bit more to it when you watch the whole film.
Yes, yeah. but it's like it is quite a bizarre.
Well, yeah. So what's cool, and then there's more killer robots.
Of course.
There's trips through time, and also the metaphysical stuff. The future comes into it quite a bit more.
It kind of takes the highlights from the we don't get an odd time battle in this one.
No.
Or sort of or if we go back in time but they kind of do it in the way of if we're going to cheat by going forward in time to get information.
But then there's a lot more meeting versions of themselves at very different points in their lives, which is interesting. There's also the fact that their daughters get involved and try and help. So their daughters do what they did in the first film, but instead of going back in time just to do a book what they're trying to save their fathers, who, I mean, these girls absolutely obviously worship their fathers very much in their
and they do refer to them as fathers.
No, dads.
Yeah, dads.
Yeah. Oh, dads. Yes. Again, everything's kind of plural. Like yes. It's not like my dad and your dad. It's like oh, our dads are in trouble.
Yeah.
Which kind of actually thinking about it, if somebody said that, you'd be like, oh, like in a same-sex couple. I hadn't thought of that before, but yeah. But what's interesting that you were saying, in the first film they bring together history and their love of music, but in this the history is music.
Yeah.
Because I mean, other than Beethoven, none of the other historical figures in the first film were particularly music related. But
I think it's quite good
but in this one they're specifically trying to get some of the best musicians they can, and it's really interesting. So they go kind of further and further back in history, but it's interesting who they choose, and it's mostly masculine, but there are two women, aren't there?
Yes.
Again, women aren't given to it. I mean, I suppose the two women are ones I hadn't heard of, but I think one of them seems a bit of an extrapolation. One of them I think is actually based on an actual historical figure, but I don't know much about it. But it's also really good because it's not just like, here are some old white guys from history. It's like, here are a variety of people.
I think it's
which is cool.
I suppose it's interesting that
particularly considering the history of American popular music.
The girls, Bill and Ted, they obviously like playing music and writing music. But you don't often necessarily get an idea that they have an idea of music.
They just like kind of like they do air guitar and it's that
they like
riffs
and they like to play,
but they
don't know music. Whereas
theory,
not even theory, but kind of you wouldn't wonder whether they'd know the groundings
appreciation, history.
Yeah. Whereas the daughters do. That's what they do. They love listening to music and they love
talking about it and analysing it.
and so they're coming at it from not a playing angle because they don't play.
Yeah, it's more of an organisational
thing. But they love...
Which, again, turns out to be quite important.
Yes.
They need to be organised to get stuff done.
But their love of music is more about, the inspirations where, so...
Yeah.
They're looking at, this person was inspired by this person.
And then they show a guy in the 1920s a mobile phone video of a recording of a guy in the 60s who was inspired by him. So, what is this? Which is quite cool.
Yeah.
That actor did quite well with the voice. Yeah. But yeah, so that's quite good. But yeah, I mean, I get the impression Bill and Ted obviously have broadened their
because
obviously got Theron in the throat singing, but again, it doesn't seem very much about performance and writing the song.
Rather than
organising things, I guess.
Yeah, so. No, they're the players. They want to play and write, whereas their daughters have turned into appreciation. Enthusiasts, they've gone for the different side of musical. The music and
well, I think from their point of view, like they believe, because they obviously absolutely in their father's mould believe that they are going, like their father's going to write the song, so they just soak up as much as they can about it. And obviously they've been in an environment where they didn't have to fight to be allowed to live lives based on music, because obviously that's what their fathers lived, which obviously was, so they haven't had that battle that the dads had in the first film, like, you know, had earlier on, and I mean, still, because Ted's dad's still like super disapproving.
Yes.
And
because of course nobody believes that they travelled in time and are going to write.
They're always saying, "Oh, it's our destiny," and there's like no,
you didn't travel in time. You didn't go to hell. You don't. You know, your music is not going to unite the world. So yeah, I think one interesting fact I read. I don't know. So at one point they get told that this event happens 77 minutes in time. So it's so and they get a watch. It's 77 minutes. That is the remaining runtime of the film.
Oh.
It runs so, unlike a lot.
Might as well, actually, I suppose. Yeah.
Unlike a lot of films where they say, "Oh, this thing's going to happen in 10 minutes."
That Batman film.
And 20 minutes later,
timer going?
20 minutes later, you're still doing it. No,
the timer is at 5 seconds. It's been at 5 seconds.
77 minutes at the 77-minute mark, when they get given the clock to say when they need to be playing the great song. That is 77 minutes till the end. The runtime is then 77 minutes, and it goes through. And I believe each time you see the clock, each time they go, it's X amount of time until we need to be doing it. That's X amount of time in the film until they're doing it.
That's some very careful editing there, isn't it? Well,
I'm not 100% sure of that bit, but certainly 77 minutes is the rest of the runtime of the film.
Okay, I wonder if they had to like voice that over or like change clocks or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it was a CGI clock anyway, so.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I thought that was quite cool. That was a
I think it's interesting. I think it also shows you have these guys who are told, "Oh, you're destined to do this great thing," and then probably almost the pressure of that probably caused a lot of problems for them. And also, but they were still able to nurture the next generation. And I also think it's interesting that like a lot of this, well, I mean, the stuff with different factions scheming against them, that's two women who are related from the future, like a mother and daughter, who have different interpretations of what should be happening. So that's where you've got like some teenage rebellion. Well, not teenage.
No, she was.
Well, yeah, no, that actually, but like I mean, more like I guess filial rebellion.
Yeah.
And then the younger person turns out to be right. I also think it's interesting that most of the things that happen in that film are because some ladies decide to get some stuff sorted and organise things. Rather than just hang about in the garage.
Yeah.
Well, no, in fairness, the girls have been hanging around in the garage for a long time as well. But it's yeah, it's just, that's quite cool.
I think
it's also interesting that, because Keanu Reeves wouldn't come back for a long time, like they've been moving this film for years, but, I mean, obviously Keanu is like a massive star, and he's got a lot of integrity and seems to be generally a good bloke, which is nice, because you find less and less of those amongst, like, famous people as we go on, it seems. And, yeah, he would only come back, I think, if it was something he felt strongly about and was compelling. Like, I don't think he would come back for another, like, let's do a silly time adventure, even though obviously that, you know, was part of what made him, and so, although he did do Gross Point Blank. No. Gross Point. No. The cop film with Swayze. Point Break. They've both got point in, and we watched Gross Point Blank a little while ago, didn't we?
Yeah, Point Break and Speed were around those.
Why is it called Point Break? Because it doesn't seem to relate to anything. That's why I can't remember the name of it. It's like with Ghost Point Blank. It's like none of these relate to any of the content of the film. Are they just places? Anyway.
Gross Point is the place that they go back to. And he's Martin Blank.
I have to remember a lot of details of both the character's surname and also the location of the thing. It's not the kind of thing you remember from films. Anyway, apart from apparently this one. But that's just because they say San Dimas and their full names quite a lot, and also it's in the cartoon.
Yeah.
What was I saying? But yeah, so obviously Keanu went on to do a lot of things, but I don't think that he's somebody who anywhere regressed the early part of his career, but I think he's somebody that also wants to choose his projects carefully and has particular ideas about it, so it had to be something compelling. Well, that's the point, he can.
He can these days. I mean, you know, I think the one you were talking about earlier, you know, he did that one because he felt like it.
Well, always be my mate.
Yeah, he just, you know, you know, obviously someone pitched it to him. He went,
she wants to play a super weird, like, version of
in some respects, much like Samuel L. Jackson. It's like, you know, someone said, "Oh, let's see if we can get him to do snakes on a plane." It's like, so Samuel Jackson, because someone wanted to hear Samuel L. Jackson saying, you know, snakes on a plane, and some other words. And, you know, he just went, yeah, why not?
Well, I mean, with Always Beyond Maybe, obviously he's not starring. He's kind of like it's kind of like a rom-com. So he's kind of like a complication character that's in it. But there's one point where he's hanging around with three other people who are Asian American. And at one point, so he says something, and he's like, I know a lot about Chinese history. I know the names of Chinese dignitaries. And he starts just like the same name of Chinese dignitaries. And I was looked up, it's like, oh, because he does have a Chinese grandparent and stuff. And but yeah, he's just this odd like famous guy who's like very, very intense, and like it's kind of this idea of like, you know, Hollywood star who's a bit weird about stuff. And I don't think Keanu himself is like that, because he seems reasonably down to earth and not too big on like all the money and stuff. I think, like, hasn't he given a load of money to various causes and works quite simply? I feel like I read that at one point.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I know exactly.
I think yeah. In the green room before we started recording, and the green room being us,
also our living room.
Yeah, so we don't actually have a green room.
That's green paint in our bedroom.
I suppose it's green paint in our bedroom. So yeah, I was just saying he gets a bit of flack for his acting, especially I think The Matrix. Well, I think people said The Matrix was, you know, Neo in The Matrix was a good character for him because it didn't require much acting. Later characters possibly.
Constantine wasn't his best, I don't think.
Johnny Mnemonic.
I've not seen that.
But John Wick certainly was alright in the first one. He got to shoot a lot of people.
Oh, people seem to be really, really into John Wick.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we were going to the first one.
No, I don't
think I was into that genre of films, certainly at the moment.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, I wouldn't object to seeing the other films. But yeah, I think
Speed. We didn't mention Speed. Right, that was it. Yeah. That was 94. But that's one I've seen quite a lot. I think that's actually Keanu Reeves' film I've seen most, because we had it on video at one point back when, you know.
Yeah, I think he does well at what he does, and sometimes he's possibly strayed beyond where he's very good at. But yeah, you know, he's pulled off, you know, and certainly he managed to channel his older acting self for Bill and Ted 3. I think, you know, it was old. You could definitely tell it was old Ted. You know, it was. They used similar language. I mean, at one point they were using slightly longer words than their younger selves would have. I noticed a couple of times they used.
But no, I think that was the thing in it. It's again, it's part of that early '90s thing where you've got people who were like, it's part of the slacking. So they're saying dude and saying excellent. But I think the fact that, you know, he calls himself, you know, Esquire. You know, and you have it in Clueless as well. That whole idea that actually there's a certain culture of people who would just use these really long, like, I mean, bodacious. It's come to be a surfer term, but it wasn't before that. It was probably quite a long word. So there's this sort of level of even people who perhaps aren't too bothered about school and stuff have a certain level of being precocious.
Yeah, I suppose,
and showing their erudition, which
show off.
Yeah, well, yeah. I know what I was doing that way. Which I think was in films a bit. As I say, there's a thing in Clueless where you know, Cher's making over Ty and she's like, oh, you guys talk like grown-ups. And she's like, well, this is a really good school. And yeah, they're rich, which I think Bill and Ted families do all right. Yeah. But they're not obviously not paying much attention to their education. They're sort of like, again, the sort of slacker. They don't go into the stoner side of things, but the implications there, which I also assume is what their dad thought they were going on about with the time travel. Ted's dad. But yeah, the fact is that they do every so often just pepper longer words in there.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yes.
So I noticed they were doing it, but I didn't. That didn't feel like it was.
It didn't feel out of place. It was just. No. You know, but yeah, you know. But yeah, anyway, yeah. Keanu Reeves definitely felt. You know, he was definitely channeling old Ted. And Alex Winter. Yeah. Interestingly, again, one random fact I've done: Alex Winter had acting lessons before doing Bill and Ted 3 because he'd spent so much time not in front of the camera.
That's right.
Which is quite kind of amusing that you felt you had to take acting lessons to be.
Well, if you have to do a thing and you're rusty, you take lessons. Remember that time I took driving lessons?
Yeah. It just took them. So, yeah.
Like, after having a license.
They were both, you know.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it was.
I liked it and thought it was good. And then somebody on Twitter was watching it the day after we were. I'm not quite sure even why. She was just. And then she was commenting about bits, which was fun.
I think it's just a fun film.
It's a fun film, but it's not just, like I say, it did feel like a step along though.
Yes.
Like it felt like a modern version of it, rather than just being we're doing the same thing again. But like 25 years later, you'd be like, okay, things are different now. But it's like, yeah, things are different now. That's fine.
The things they retrod from the previous films were for good reasons. You know, the collecting historical figures was different again. You know, the going
the stake. There was more. I mean, they kind of raised the stakes, but
was different.
Yeah, and that was quite kind of quick. Wasn't it? So yeah.
You know, and yes, it kind of built on. You know, the first one was they have to just stay together in order to to do music.
Well, it's called Face the Music. They had to actually do the thing.
The second one was was the they then have to become famous. So the third one really has to be
they're washed up and looking to come
do the
back.
Thing, Marcus. Good joke.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't find any bits of it confusing or annoying. That robot was slightly annoying, but I think he's supposed to be Dennis.
I don't think that was.
I don't know who that actor was, but I supposed to know who he was. They were wearing a lot of face makeup.
I think they were definitely channeling a specific type of person there.
Yeah.
I could have done without that character, but.
Well, I mean, it's okay while he was the scary robot. And it was sort of funny when he started apologising initially, but after I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
But, but the rest of it was pretty solid. So, yeah. One thing I did want to say about the film generally, because obviously in the first one, Rufus tells them about this future where their music has become so influential. And then they go to that future. And they're just there briefly, and there's the, be excellent to each other thing. Which is quite nice because again, these are certainly when they're young, they're lads who are just there's no malice to them, but they just want to play their music, and they just want to be pleasant and stuff. And even later on, that continues, that good naturedness continues throughout, which is why then the future version of themselves, there's changes, things go wrong, and that's interrupted, I suppose. And in fact, they actually say, they complain about future thems. Well, that's the thing. There was the future us's, and again, it's always a plural pronoun. There's no you and me. It's always us and we. So, yes, very much a unit there. But yeah, so it did occur to me quite some years ago. Be excellent to each other, and that's a good thing. It occurs to me though that the word excellent, one of the main places I saw it, and I think I thought of this when I was job hunting some years back. Is so many corporate things or organisational things are a bit we're looking for excellence or our thing's excellence. It's I don't think this is what Bill and Ted meant.
No, definitely not.
It's the category for this thing is excellence. It's well, what does that mean? It's belief, excellence, success, trust.
Yes.
If you remember, or various things. I don't think that the thing we have for what are our there were the values for our director. I don't think excellent is in there, but again, it's a selection of words: respect, support.
Yeah, the council.
Respectful is always a bit of a confusing one. It's
council wants
I
a short
sentence. Myself disrespect
by
any particular point. That thing where you're in an organisation, here are some words, and you have to apply them to your work for an assessment. Somehow. But
it's all very. Yeah, I think definitely the message of be excellent to each other. Definitely.
I feel like it's something we need now. Yes.
Yeah, I think that definitely we need more Bill and Ted in the world. We should just be excellent to each other.
The other thing I see excellent in a lot is that it's using a lot of grading systems as the highest score. So that's the other thing, excellence. And you're right. Very good. Sometimes it's not very good.
Yeah, the Bill and Ted films they are just there's no malice in them at all.
No, this is
in some respects they have to even when there are the evil Bill and Ted's, they have to go get good Bill and Ted's to fight them. They can't fight them. It's
they're not. Well, I suppose that's the thing. Again, it's part of the kind of slacker sort of thing, but they're not. When doing stuff, there's never much. I mean, that possession scene is a bit weird, but other than that, there's never any kind of there's no fighting. I mean, Genghis Khan's a bit fighty. I think Napoleon gets all upset at the water park and stuff.
Yeah. But...
but I mean, those historical figures you expect that from.
Yeah.
But again, like in Face the Music, I mean, the robot keeps going to try and get them, but it's about music. It's not about
it's about
you know combat.
Well, and their relationships and things.
Yeah. Which, I mean, considering that obviously Keanu Reeves, you know, has quite a lot of his career been kind of an action. Well, he's been an action star. You know, it's well, she's done various things. So I hadn't thought about that before because it's just not in the film. But particularly considering something that's got sort of melodies. But then again, the point is it is like a teen comedy. It's not in any action, but quite often, if you say teen comedy, you sort of think of more recent stuff where there's like either gross out stuff or there's a lot of sexual stuff because they're older certificates, I guess, and they're kind of going for that, like the stuff from when like I was a teenager. There was a ton of that, and I mean now I look back at it now and I'm like I enjoyed it at the time because it's what was on, and also I guess you felt grown up watching it when people do all the stuff that you
it's true.
But then looking back now, it's like, oh, that was like everyone was really unpleasant and gross and stuff, and there's nothing like that. It's, as you say, it's all good natured. I mean, even with Face the Music, the kind of antagonistic force is somebody who's trying to do her best based on what she believes is the solution to the problem. Yeah. So you know, and again, kind of the thing at the end when there's a kind of bringing together of stuff, that's quite nice, and it's about. Yeah, like a kind of something that's sort of almost, I say a human universal. There's very few things that are that, but not individually human universal, but across like cultures and time.
So it's you know, if you haven't already seen the two Bill and Ted, the Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey.
Well, we spoiled
the crap out of them for you. So,
but they're like 30 years old.
But
so you probably picked up some of it from pop culture.
Yeah, so go and watch them. And if you haven't already, definitely check out Face the Music. If you enjoyed Bill and Ted previously, if you didn't enjoy Bill and Ted previously, well, I don't think this one's going to be for you. But you know, it's
which is reasonable.
Yeah. But you know, definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
Available through Amazon.
Is it on other? It might be on other platforms.
No, it's rentable at the moment on Amazon.
Okay.
Or you can buy it. It's on DVD as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was just. Oh no, yeah, it's a DVD. It wasn't.
Yes, but
it's very hard to keep track of where. I mean, it was difficult before where things were at the cinema, but then there'd be an advert on a bus. But now the bus advert's been nothing. So
I didn't think it was worth buying the DVD of just the one film.
No, that's fair enough.
I'll wait until we can get the DVD of all three films. Seems more sensible. Well, together we can get the DVDs of all three films separately, but that's.
Waiting for a box set.
I'm waiting for a box set, yes.
Okay.
Or at least a relatively reasonably priced box set. Anyway, good film. Go watch it. Mm-hmm. Gets 2 thumbs up. Or that's whichever that. Yeah.
I don't know.
I have no idea. It gets a excellent. I believe we're. Oof,
it didn't make the noise this time.
It did.
Did it?
Yeah, you're busy talking.
Oh, okay.
I think we should wrap this up.
That's reasonable.
I have read my manual. I cut pieces out and stick them together. I will start this at some point. Yeah, or I might do something to do with lizards riding dinosaurs.
Okay. I have sort of filled. Oh, it does look a little bit like blue, honestly. I've sort of filled in this section of the deer with the dark blue. I think when there's more of it, it'll show it better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite good in the light. We got new lighting because this room is kind of dim and it's difficult to.
It's fine to sit and watch TV or just chill out in. It's not good for
illuminated.
It's not good for
So looking at close up things. But
yes.
So we'll do this again in 2 weeks with something else.
2 weeks time.
We had a session with all sorts of topics,
including Gundams. I don't think it'll be Gundams. I might have to wait for a while to get my Gundams.
Okay, it's kind of the way you keep cackling it, like about it.
I cackle a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
I cackle a lot. Yes. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Stay safe and definitely be excellent to one another.